living an extremely chud lifestyle, right? The reason they're doing this is because, like, that's just how people are, right? Maybe we are at the point you can't change people's idea. You can't change how people think, right? Because maybe it's just who they are. Maybe that's just like what they think a normal life is. And what they gain from life is just, I just want to be happy. I just want to do things that make me happy. And so, like, they don't think about the consequences that come with excessive amounts of convenience or excessive amounts of comfort, right? Because I'll tell you, like, comfort at the surface level, it looks really fun, right? It's like, you see this video and it's really funny, right? Or you see this video game and it's really fun. Or, you see this trend that everyone's doing, and then like you feel like it's a fear of missing out, FOMO. That's a really big thing. And you feel like you got to do it too, right? All of these things circulate around the category of comfort, but comfort is really a hidden trap, right? It's something that everyone does, but no one really acknowledges the dark consequences of. Because if you live a life where you're constantly comfortable, then you are rejecting the human condition of sacrifice and pain. As a human being, to truly live a life that is meaningful and to truly live a life that is worth something, you have to be willing to endure, and you have to be willing to go through that Odyssey mission. If you guys saw the Odyssey, the whole idea of the movie was Odysseus went on the path and he went towards a journey, right? And it was very, very difficult, right? And I imagine that if you want to live a life that you can truly live back on, you have to be willing to go down your mission, bro. That could be maybe this year, that could be the next 5 years, it could be the rest of your life. Who knows, dude? But you have to understand that you are living in the most advanced, most comfortable time period ever, you know? So you can honestly get any video at your fingertips. You can access information like never before. You can talk to whoever you want on the planet. It's almost like all your needs are satisfied, right? It's like almost like all your needs are kind of like satisfied, And you're kind of just like, you don't have a reason to strive towards those physiological needs like social interaction, food, water, shelter. They're all very easy to access, right? And because of all this comfort and convenience, it leads towards a life that's very shallow and very dull and devoid of meaning, right? People are still searching for a life full of meaning because it just feels like because we can get everything we want, it's like we kind of get bored, It leads to a massive amount of boredom. And because everyone is so comfortable all the time, we look at people that are growing and we actually envy that. We really envy those people. The people that choose to do suffering they don't hate themselves, right? But they respect themselves on a level that's like, yo, I'm willing to pump myself day and night. I'm willing to show up to the gym even when it doesn't make sense. I'm willing to read a book even if it doesn't make sense. I'm willing to study even if it doesn't make sense, right? Because people realize that this is not just something that it's not just about making your bed. It's not just about lifting a bunch of heavy weights, but it's more than that. It's about like understanding that your life is just a series of just showing up and getting shots up. That's literally all life is. Understanding that if you can persist and endure, then you will be rewarded, right? That is really just the goal, man. Like, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, this is my life, right? My life is I wake up, I go to work to the Wave, and listen, I'm fortunate enough to meet a lot of cool people. I have friends there, I earn a pretty good wage, and the work there is not too hard. But then by the time I get back, the average person would, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, scroll, and maybe just do their homework, right? Well, for me, it's not like that at all because I spend that time working on a business or a side or a personal brand, and during that time I'm insanely disciplined, right? I willingly have changed my environment where it's to the point like I choose not to like, you know, I like choose not to stimulate myself at that time period because I've done research on dopamine and realized that the increasing amount of dopamine hits that you get earlier in the day will make it harder for you to focus, right? When people do something stimulating and it releases a lot of dopamine at the end of the day, your baseline actually drops. So when you have to do the things that are boring and stimulating, you can't. You can't get yourself to focus on it because your brain is still thinking about that stimulating thing you saw earlier in the day, you know? And so we're constantly stuck in these dopamine loops. Whether it's you're scrolling through a web page on YouTube, you're watching a video, you're watching a stupid movie. And think about all the movies there are right now. There's honestly no regulation, and people can spend all their time just watching these movies and not really addressing the proper health needs that they really need, you know? And that's why we're in a time where everyone's so comfortable and everyone's stimulated, you know? And it's really not our fault, but it's the design of an increasingly advanced world and advanced system, right? And a lot of people just don't want to keep up with that. I don't want to keep up with that. I don't want to constantly keep up with like news that's being pumped out every single day. I don't want to keep on reading articles about the White House. I don't want to go on Twitter and see my favorite NBA team and every single trade that happens. I don't give a fuck. I don't need to know those things every single second of the day. It doesn't make sense. It's like you're just posting content and you're just getting stuff out there to rile people up. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's dumb, right? And when things move too fast and it feels like, you can get access to every negative piece of information out there online, then people really just kind of give up. And it makes a lot of sense as to why people want to isolate from those people, from those environments, from that whole toxic influence. And they want to isolate. Just like go out in nature and see how peaceful it really is. It's not chaotic at all. It's pure and it's nice. And really just like focusing on your craft and focusing on yourself is the best possible investment you can always make. And realize that like when you are on this journey, there will always be ups and downs, bro. There are always going to be ups and downs, but that's part of the journey. But whatever path you choose, stick to that like glue. Stick to it like glue, because there'll be people out there that don't understand your goals, and there are people that might, and you should spend more time with the latter. But yeah, right now I'm saying this because I'm on a path where I feel like, dude, I'm 19 years old, man, but I've gained so much clarity and understanding to what the world truly is. I was having this conversation last night, and I was kind of just like back in that state of, I realized that I'm fucked, right? But it's not that I'm stressed about it. I'm kind of like more, mindful about it. When I did hear about it, I was very stressed. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, so I realized like, we are living in one of the worst job markets ever. The being in this current state kind of sucks because everything is really expensive now. And jobs are really, really tough to get by. And like it's honestly to the point where going to university is a scam, and it truly is a scam unless you're doing a specialized degree like a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. I've said this, many, many times, but if you're doing like a specialized job, like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, you won't actively be at risk, but going to university for anything else is really just like a waste of time. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources, because you're telling me that I spent 4 to 6 years to get a professional credential, and then by the time I try to apply for a job, I'm being scanned by an AI algorithm. Like that's honestly the truth. Most people that put their applications on like LinkedIn or like Indeed, their application gets scanned by an AI algorithm, right? It's not even being looked at a human. And the reason they did that is because literally, bro, think about it. Every person on the planet can apply for a job, right? So if everyone has that ability, no one's gonna be looking at it manually. So they filter it out using an AI algorithm. But like, let's just stop for a second and think how crazy that is. Your 4 year or your 6 year college education, the amount of hours you put in, the time you spent, the connections you made, the moves you did, all of that to be scanned by 7 seconds. It's 7 seconds by an algorithm that checks if your resume is up to date, if it has the right keywords, if it has the right things, like, and then even if you do, you have to go through this multi-step process just to get a bad job, a chance at surviving, bro. you know? And then also with AI and everything, listen, I have actually a positive opinion about AI, but also a negative one as well. My negative opinion is like, AI is gonna eventually outsource a lot of labor, and no doubt by the time I'm well into adulthood, 30 years from now, damn, I don't even know what the world will look like in 30 years. But yeah, 30 years from now, we can expect like 40 to 50% of the jobs being replaced by AI. I'm just throwing it out there, but we're definitely getting to that point 30 years from now, like no doubt. Um, and then on top of that, education will be obsolete, right? So then there has to be massive changes, right? We're going to be the first generation to truly experience this, right? And we have grown up with this technology, so we are the most literate and the most educated on, how it like truly works. Like I feel like our generation was the last one to truly be out there in life before technology really like took over, right? So yeah, and also don't forget all of these like insane addictions that we have. I'm telling you, it's just gonna get worse, bro. It's just gonna get more stimulating. Like, because right now what do we have? We have doom scrolling, we have scrolling reels, we have the infinite scroll feature, which in of itself is already really advanced. But think about like how, like, if you really get into the details, it could be, instead of looking at a screen and touching a screen, you can look at like a hologram of like a product on Amazon you want to buy. It's almost like it's like there, but it's not there. It's like projected on your screen, like almost to the point where you can see it. And it's so weird, right? And then we're going to be increasingly living in a world that's dominated by technology. So I feel like the people that will get ahead in this time are those that really get ahead with AI and get ahead with like understanding technology, learning how robots work, learning how AI agents work. And I think that's one thing I am kind of into. First of all, like like people, I want to escape. And here's the thing: the reason I chose to do entrepreneurship is because I want to be my own boss, right? I want to be my own boss, and it's a choice I've made. Of course, people have to, work a job, but most work is modern slavery. You can't leave whenever you want to. You have to do what the person above you says you have to do, right? And it's a lack of independence, dude. And listen, I'm already very fortunate enough that I can travel and I can do so many things, and I've had a great experiences, but I possess knowledge that a lot of people don't have, which is that jobs will become obsolete, right? And in this economy, it's very hard to kind of keep up with it, where of course you have to work a job, but you know, what is the what is the point of doing it if the risks massively outweigh the benefit? Like the risk is you are damn near stressed every day, waking up in cold sweats because you got to clock into work and you're still not getting paid enough to pay for groceries. I guarantee you, bro, like down like 10 years down the line, economy will be very expensive. Things will start to increase more and more, and it's not like we can just work harder. We have to find other ways of income because there's only so much that a person can work until they start to crack, until they start to break down. So you have to just figure out that. I mean, that's why I chose to get into entrepreneurship, because with AI, the work can become a lot easier. The principles are the same. And people are like literally posting, that they're making millions of dollars, right? Through products, through drop shipping, through a lot of these services. And if it's something you can do, you should get into it, right? You should really get into it, bro. It depends on how committed you are, but consistency is key. And I want to get to that point one day, in my 20s or later on, where I'm selling something and I have enough income by myself where I'm able to buy my own things, right? Because you ever get that feeling like where you walk into a mall and you like walk into a store, and you're with your friends, but you realize you can't buy anything, right? Or you realize you can't actually purchase an item without asking your parents first. You can't buy a game, you can't buy a car without asking your parents first. But once you have that money, it's like a new portal in the game of life is open for you. It's like a lot of doors have just been unlocked for you to just walk past. So I think that with that money and gaining that income, it's a really good thing. And the thing with entrepreneurship is you can make it what you want. So you have an opportunity to make the work rewarding, you know? You can make the work what you want. You don't have to be tied down by a boss. You can work at your own hours, right? But you have to be consistent. The trade-off, like these are three really good benefits, right? But the trade-off with that is you have to be willing to fail a lot. And I think that's why people don't like entrepreneurship. Like a lot of like old people think that entrepreneurship is not a good idea, and they would rather people work 9 to 5 jobs, basic jobs, or get into the trades or get into business or get into doctor. All these are, annual salaries, right? And the reason why everyone says you need to work a job is because it's stable. It's a low risk investment, right? If you work a job, there is an absolute guarantee you will not lose money, you will not lose traction, you will not fail. It's a safe route, but you should never play life safe your whole time. Like the whole time you're alive, I don't think you should ever play it safe. You need to do something where you are actually taking a risk. Because if you don't take a risk, then how can you truly know what else you're capable of? Like, let that sink in. Like, if you never at least tried to run a business, because everyone says, oh, what if I fail? What if I don't do well? But what if you succeed? Like, what if you actually get to a point where you're like, damn, like I actually did this. And you might as well try. Like what are you going to lose? What else do you have to lose, bro? You're already working in the worst job market economy in the world, first of all, right? You're in the worst job market economy in the world. You're competing with like basically billions of people for, those same basic jobs. And even if you do get a job, you're basically going to survive until you're dead. There's no social security, so there's no retirement. So why don't you just go ahead and do it? That's my way of thinking. That's my way of thinking, and that's why I chose to do this in the first place. There's a lot of things I don't understand, but I'm willing to keep moving forward and keep having an open mind and really just don't stop. I think that's the beautiful thing about consistency. It doesn't matter how much time you do, but what matters is, you show up every day. I was recording this video expecting to make a 1 minute video. Now it's like over 20 minutes. And I never really expected it to happen, but it really just did. But really my barrier is just 1 minute. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.